Order. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not considered a public community meeting. Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Scarce?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes. Will you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I now need a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
I'll move.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion or any changes?
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
There are 3 typographical errors that have been corrected on the personnel agenda.
They have been corrected on the personnel agenda.
Yes.
Okay. And where can we find, where are they? Where are we looking?
I believe they have been highlighted.
Are those the orange highlights?
Yes, those are the orange highlights.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so those orange highlights are the corrections. Are there any other changes or corrections
You mean to the personnel agenda? Or
to
period?
anything, to the
Um,
agenda?
Just if we can add a conversation just about the retreat.
Oh, okay. So where would you like to add that, Mr. Scarce?
That doesn't matter, just, we can put.
You want to just talk about it under, maybe just under board comments?
Yeah,
or?
that's fine, yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Scarce?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes, the agenda has been approved with the changes. We're going to move forward with the community comments. Ms. Allen, do we have any community comments?
I do not.
Do not, okay. Move forward with the presentations. Looks like we have the City of Trotwood abatement proposal.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you here tonight. This is an exciting project which we would like to bring before you for consideration to support the project with what is called CRA, or Community Reinvestment Area Tax Abatement Tool. This project is something that the city has been working on here for almost a year now with our partners, MVAH Partners. This is an organization that builds affordable housing within communities, both workforce and senior. And the project that they're going to be building here in Trotwood, which is located at 702 East Main Street in Trotwood, Ohio, is a senior project. This will be focused for seniors ages 55 and above. And it will be a brand new facility in line with the additional new investment along Main Street for a total of $24 million of new development that's coming here to Trotwood on Main Street. And for context, I am the executive director of the Trotwood Community Improvement Corporation, and we are designated, the CIC and the executive director of the CIC are designated by the city as the CRA housing officer. So in my capacity, I oversee the CRA abatement committee and the process therein. Yeah, apologize. So a quick overview of the project. This is a rendering of similar to how the building will be built. We're going to be looking at a 3-story building. Again, there will be roughly 50 to 55 units, again, designated for seniors ages 55 and above. The goal here is to build housing that's going to be geared for affordable. Given construction cost of where they are, it's hard to deliver a product that's affordable, especially for seniors in the community who are either on fixed incomes or maybe have supplementary incomes through other jobs, but still want to remain within the community. So this is an opportunity for us to create some more opportunity for seniors who are either seeking new living arrangements and want to stay in Trotwood, or to attract seniors who maybe want to return to the city who otherwise have had to live elsewhere. Again, a benefit of this is if some seniors decide to move out of single-family homes, this will then create new opportunity for residents to move into otherwise starter homes or upgrade from there. So this will create what we see as a positive housing churn within the community. Again, we're looking at about a 3-story building. It will have and comprise of community services, so they will have an organization that will provide wraparound services for any of the seniors there. An added benefit of this very location is it's right next to the YMCA, where many seniors already activate and work with the YMCA. It's going to be right across the street from where the new Goodwill Easter Seals West Campus is. If you know where the old library is, this is directly across the street. This actually used to be a gas station and has been a vacant lot for the better part of 15 years now. The Trotwood CIC has taken ownership of this property through the tax foreclosure process, and we've been working for positive development of this. And so we're excited to bring this before you this evening. Again, this will also tie into the new development with the new library and, of course, the new courthouse, which you've seen that just broke ground here recently. So we're excited for the momentum that's being built on Main Street, and this will go one step further to create the walkable community that we want to begin to see within the Main Street node, bringing some more density, which, of course, will go in turn to help and support our local businesses and new businesses that may come into this immediate area. Thank you. So this is in relation to the handout that I just passed out. To get right to the heart of the matter, this project needs the support of a CRA tax abatement. Number one, because affordable housing, they keep the rates at below market rate. They're not able to raise those rates to pay for the construction costs or the operations of the facility. So therefore, number one, it's important to note that projects like this, affordable housing projects like this, are not taxed the same as regular properties. So therefore, they are not taxed to the millage that everyone else would be in the community. They're taxed on what is called an income basis. So here, under the second section where you see the development income, this will show you the math of how we derived what will be the taxable basis for this. So at an average of $650 per door, they're going to have 50 units or otherwise doors. So this will create an annual net or gross income, of $390,000. And the way that this process works is for a taxable income for real estate taxes, thank you, sir, they tax the income at 50% as opposed to the basis for the property like we would otherwise. So what that shows here is that the taxable amount would be $195,000 is what would otherwise be taxed without this abatement. Therefore, under the proposed application, which is seeking a 75% abatement over the course of 15 years, and for context, the maximum allowed under the Ohio Revised Code is 15 years at 100%, we would be seeing a taxable income of $48,750. Now, this $48,750 on an annual basis, of course, is distributed about amongst the various jurisdictions. Going to the top row where we see the levy distribution, here's where this is more clearly explained. If you see under the second row, T-Madison CSD, on an annual basis, before any of the abatement, the schools would receive $24,000 from this investment without the abatement in place. Moving over further into the section where you see 25% taxes, that shows that if this abatement is approved on an annual basis, what the schools will receive from this project. The 75% abatement shows what the schools would otherwise be abating, and over 15 years, to the following columns, it shows what you would be attaining over 15 years, which would be $92,000 towards your operating costs, but you'd be abating $368,000 over those 15 years. And again, before we go further, it's important to emphasize that this project could not happen without the support of the abatement. This is very important to the underwriting, but also to making sure that they can deliver the services effectively and keep the building up to operations with the increasing costs that we all know are going on right now. So obviously, one of the important items to point out is that after year 15, the abatement goes away. And under the Ohio Revised Code, there is no extension clause and no ability to reapply an abatement. So So that means that from year 16 on, the schools, every jurisdiction will be collecting 100% of the taxable value. So here, under the year 16 plus section, I want to show you how that relates. So under years 16 through 20, the schools will effectively recoup more than they abated over the first 15 years. Actually, so much so that they would be collecting $24,000 more over those 4 years than would be abated over the 15 years. So in many ways, I like to think about tax abatements from jurisdictions as investments. And when we look at this from the perspective of an investment to induce this development and support this development for our seniors in our community, it's clear to show that the schools can derive some positive income by foregoing some income in the short term. And to be very clear, through our development mentality here, we are always cognizant of how any development, whether it's a tax increment financing tool or a tax abatement, impacts our schools. It's most important that our schools have the operating capital to be able to deploy the programs and education that we know our students need in this community. So no, from my position as the Economic Development Director for the City of Trotwood, that's always first and foremost in my mind. So here tonight, what I would like to propose is the forward recommendation from the CRA Tax Abatement Committee, which was to recommend approval to Trotwood-Madison School District, Miami Valley CTC, and the City of Trotwood Council to approve this application as submitted for 75% abatement over 15 years to support this project. So with that, I know that was quite a bit of information. Are there any questions at this point that I'd be more than happy to answer? Yes, sir.
You're asking for consideration for a 75% tax abatement. What is do you have a workable range, or is that the firm number as you are looking at this project?
That is the firm number that we've looked at with the developer. We made the case to them not to go to 100% given construction costs. They began to re-seek that, but we want to make sure the schools are getting something out of this. And as you'll see, while not a lot, without this project, $0 will be collected, to be very clear. But through supporting this project, through what I see as an abatement of an investment, you can collect $6,000 annually for the next 15 years, and then after that, within those next 4 years, you'll collect $393,000. So this is an opportunity for a long-term investment, while all collectively creating an opportunity for this new homes in our community.
Why didn't they ask for 100% abatement?
We don't encourage developers to ask for 100% abatement. We want to support, and even if it's $6,000 a year, we want to have our taxing jurisdictions receive some funding. Because again, we see this as an offset to help as an investment towards this process.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly, if it was really warranted, we would have taken the step to do so. But the developer felt confident that this would support the underwriting of the project. And again, they feel the same. And the developer was willing to be here tonight, but I told him I felt that if any questions were needed or his attendance would be needed, we certainly could bring him back to a follow-up meeting. But I'm also available to call him and put him on speakerphone right now. He is on standby if there's any questions directly for the developer.
I think you've done
Go ahead.
a really good job in laying out the numbers and for all the participants and the rates and the 15-year amount. So you've done a really good job in laying out what it would be for the district and what we would be abating, but then what we get back in year 16.
That's right.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I would just, did you have something?
No, go ahead.
I would just like to kind of make mention to the board that this is a really good investment. I think for a very long time, the schools have been the top earner in our city, kind of leaving the city without the opportunity or ability to make necessary investments, which would enhance what I would consider, I guess, the livability of our city. If schools receive 70% of every, or 70 cents of every tax dollar, and the city only gets, a very small portion of that dollar, that means we struggle to pave roads, to make necessary investments to help grow the city. So if we can do things like this, in any opportunity that we can, I think we should definitely take it. I don't think our bottom line as a district is going to be hurt over the next, 15 years or so if we receive $24,000. We just sat in a finance committee meeting and we paid somebody more than 24 grand to do consulting work. So I think this is a good investment, and I hope that we support it.
Thank you, sir. If I may add something as well, we do not anticipate virtually any increase in school services, meaning no new student should be derived from this development, considering it's 55 and above. Only under extreme circumstances would a resident be able to have a school-age child living with them in this facility. So we're not anticipating any increase in demand on your services or resources. So that's a benefit where, again, if it wasn't for that, we would want to show the offset commensurate with the increase in services, and that's something we're conscious about when we work with developers.
When does a decision have to be made or a motion be made to approve?
Thank you, sir. Our goal is to have this proposed at the November 1st Trotwood City Council meeting, and by the Ohio Revised Code, both Trotwood-Madison School District and Miami Valley CTC have to send in their approval prior to that, considering that this is above the 50% threshold set by the Ohio Revised Code. And right now, and to be clear, the Trotwood Community Improvement Corporation, again, is the owner of this, so we are under contract. The board there has already approved this, and this project has gone through the initial approval processes from the Planning Commission, and they will be receiving, should be receiving their PUD approval process at the October meeting. So right now, we're in a natural progression of support for the project and to see it close out, if you will, in November. And the developer's goal is, once it is closed and all of these pieces are in place, to move to break ground as soon as possible so that the construction can get started and we can get this building operational in late 2022 or early 2023.
And maybe I missed this in your presentation, but in terms of demand, what did you do in terms of research benchmarking to know that there's actually a demand for these 50, is it 50?
50, yes.
50 units.
Great question. And that's something the developer could speak better to, but they did go through multiple market studies as part of this. And we actually have other developers who are seeking right now, based on the market demand for this, to come in and do more senior housing in the community in the future. And anecdotally, while not a study, I've received over 20 calls simply for people who, from news that this has been out here over the past year, wanting to get into this house or get their family or their parents into this facility here. So we already know that there's a strong demand for this, and at 50 units, we're not exceeding what I would call a comfortable threshold for receiving that demand for that property. So we think we're just taking a bite out of the demand with this project. It's one step of many to get to where we need to be.
And this wouldn't be like an assisted care thing, this is just
Correct.
senior lofts.
That's right. That's right. And it'll be one of the few buildings, again, with an elevator. There will be an elevator here. They will have full services. And again, the location, we believe, is fantastic, both for the services that are going to be surrounding it, from the YMCA to Goodwill Easter Seals, even the courthouse, and of course, Trotwood's Government Center just up the road there. This, again, is going to continue to build out what we're seeing as a lot of momentum on Main Street, and again, wanting to build that walkable downtown feel that I think Main Street is very well positioned for here.
Thank you.
Ms. Allen, if I remember correctly, I don't know, a couple of years ago, did we get income from an abatement? I think it was maybe right after.
TIF tax increment financing, so we still get that money from the city of Trotwood, and it's about 50-something thousand a year.
Okay.
If, one more question, since you're here, tell us about what type of development or what it would mean, because the school district owns the soccer field there. And I know we've kind of hinted around having a discussion with the city and the CIC about releasing that property. What would that mean for the CIC and the development of that particular area?
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Through this and all of the momentum being built on Main Street with these new construction, I've had 3 meetings this week with developers who are interested in joining in that momentum here at Trotwood. And the availability of land, especially along East Main Street, is where a lot of the interest lies. Really, we see 2 nodes of key development in the community. 1, East Main Street, and number 2, the former Sears Sealand Mall site, where the CIC and the city collectively own that entire 56-acre site. And I'd be happy to come talk more about that. I could talk about that site all day long. But On Main Street, we see some of the remaining sites that are buildable there as being very key to continued momentum. And then obviously, as you point out, sir, one of those being the former Sage Soccer Complex that the school owns immediately across from this site. So we would really like the opportunity as the Community Improvement Corporation, again, which is a separate 501c3 from the city, but we are the designated economic, community, and housing development agency for the city of Trotwood. My office is in the city offices. For us to engage with the schools about how we can work together on these developable properties while the opportunity is here before us, both on East Main Street, the former Broadway school site, and others that the school district would be interested in engaging with us on. Just so it's clear, the city transfers many of its underutilized properties to the Trotwood CIC so that we're able to go out and directly negotiate with developers, put in place developments ourselves. We certainly have the capacity to do developments ourselves like we will with the Sears building, and bring together these developments on these sites that are well positioned for growth in the community.
Would you mind setting up a meeting with Ms. Allen?
Certainly.
If the board would be so pleased to hear about, what it is you guys would like to do with the soccer field.
Absolutely.
And how we can help.
Absolutely. We would love to engage with the schools on that and set up another meeting to speak more directly about that very topic and in context of development in Trotwood in general. It's important from my perspective, but also I know my boards, to have the schools as a partner in this and a part of the decision-making process going forward with developments, because we're all a community and we need to make sure, obviously, we're working together towards that end.
And soon on that.
Very soon, yes.
Very
I would.
soon.
While the opportunity is here, again, I have a developer that I'm going to be touring the community with, specifically East Main Street with next week, looking at bringing additional housing along the street market rate in this case. And again, we would love the opportunity to capture this while the opportunity is here.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else, board? Thank you.
Thank you. And if there are any follow-up questions, I know Ms. Allen has my contact information, and I'd be more than happy to share that with everyone, and look forward to working with you on this. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like next on the agenda, we have the consent agenda. And on that consent agenda, we have the approval of minutes for the August 5th, 2021 meeting, the August 10th, 2021 meeting, and then the August 19th, 2021 meeting. Item B is the student activity purpose statement and budget for the central office. Item C is approval of the installation of geofabric barrier and rubber playground mulch at ELC, Madison Park, and Westbrook Village. Item D is the approval of the school resource officer agreement. Item E is approval to accept Friendship Village donation. And then item F is the approval of the change order for the flooring contract at the middle school. I need an approval I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions, or does anything need to be pulled off the consent agenda? Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Spears?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes, the consent agenda has been approved. Moving on to the treasurer's report, item 5. Ms. Allen?
Yes, I have several things this evening for your approval, 5A and 5B. The first one is approval of the August 2021 financial reports. And we did have a finance committee meeting this evening, so there were some checks that we pulled, so I will get to that. The first schedule, though, is the schedule for the cash reconciliation for August 2021. Bank statement balances are indicated of $2.4 million, investment balances $30.2 million, and the total bank and investment cash balances is $32,678,023.89. Outstanding vendor checks is $960,526.96. There were some adjustments that we were able to identify specifically, and that those specifics were from an August 27th payroll for retirement, so that will come off next month. So with those adjustments, your adjusted bank balance and your district balance for Meta equals $31,715,758.12. The second item, as I mentioned before, we did have a finance committee today at 4:30, and the committee members, Mrs. Jeter Freeman and Mr. Scarce, had me to pull several checks, so please bear with me. So the first one was check 97071. The total was $1,199.70. It was to the Crisis Prevention Institute, and on the description, it has blended, CPI blended learning package. So I didn't know if you want to speak more to that, but it had blended learning online courses and workbook.
CPI is what all of their teachers have to, and administrators, we have to be trained in how to manage our students to make sure that we're doing that effectively. So if that was an online way for us to get that done, that would be what that was about.
Check number 96940, and that was to Upslope Solutions, and there were two checks to Upslope Solutions, and that was for the employee code of conduct subscription or regulatory compliance, and also the cost of administrative trainings. And that training took place on August the 10th. The next one was check 96980 in the amount of $3,750, and it was to Thrively, and Thrively is a subscription for professional development training, and it says help with personalizing classroom experience. They have open office hours and parent workshops.
You said parents workshop?
It says parent workshops on it.
So how do we use that, and how do we engage the parent as a part of that? Dr. Costa?
I think that is something that Ms. Mallory has taught, because Mr. Warner is here and curriculum is not aware. So I will get with Ms. Mallory and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Privately is not, we have not used privately with parents. Privately has been used in association with our career tech programs, with the pathway through our middle school. We've been using in association with some of their work, the career courses that are happening.
So that part that she read is not part of what we're doing?
That's what I know privately.
Okay. Thank you.
The next check is check 97098, and it is in the amount of $6,528 to Motivating Systems, and it was for PBIS rewards at the middle school, and I think it was Westbrook Village Elementary. And the last one, if I can find it very quickly, and I answered this question for Mr. Scarce, was there's a check 97069 to Pickle, Schaefer, and Ewan for $1,404.10, and that legal firm, I used them for real estate, board of revision real estate meetings. So they go and represent the district when someone contests their real estate values. The last schedule is it's now called Spending Plan Summary for the month of August, and it indicates your revenues and your expenditures, both for the month of August and fiscal year to date, which includes the month of July. And so all the way at the bottom then, you will see that your total expenditures again and total revenues. And as I indicated in the Finance Committee meeting today, that for the month of August, it was almost $800,000 for our expenditures exceeded the revenue, but because July had a positive revenue over expenditures, the total then fiscal year to date is $297,278.34. We will see a significant flip next month because we did receive our real estate collections. And so you will see a huge revenue exceeding your expenses because I think it's like $3 point something million that we got received for real estate. So those are the three reports for 5A that I need approval this evening.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the August 2021 financial reports.
I move.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Do we have any questions or concerns about those reports? Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Scares.
Yes.
Mr. Andrews.
Yes.
And Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes, the motion carries. Moving on to item 5B.
So item 5B is an amendment for the FY '22 appropriations. And what I did is, Mrs. Jeter Freeman likes for me to do this, just to show the difference between the last appropriation order and this appropriation order. As I mentioned before, we are trying to utilize the new system as much as we can, so the reports look a little different. But the changes from the last time that I presented the appropriations was from July 15th. There were changes for the general fund, auxiliary, in the amount of $94,000, auxiliary services, an increase of $140,000, preschool, an increase of $236,000, Fund 461, which is vocational education enhancements of $500, student wellness, $183,000, and then the Corona Relief Fund, we closed that out on July 15th, so it indicated $1 million on July 15th, but because we closed that out at zero, so that was a negative $1,076,151.23. So the total difference between the last time that I presented was $422,489.70. That was the difference, and then the new total appropriations of $58,166,706.15. I would like also board president for action on that item as well.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve the amended FY '22 appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Do we have any questions or concerns about the amended FY '22 appropriations? Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mrs. Peter Freeman,
Yes.
and Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes, the motion carries.
And that's
Moving,
all.
moving on to superintendent's report, item 6A.
Madam President, can I have a 3-minute break to speak to Mr. Howard before I?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
And while she's doing that, I failed to mention on the board docs, I have added for you guys the July and the August financial reports. So they're.
I did see that. Thank you.
Are we in recess for 3 minutes?
Yeah, I guess we have a 3-minute recess. So we have superintendent's report, item 6.
All right, item 6A is approval of the Madison Park and ELC Playscape project quote. We talked about this, I have it in your packet. Attaches a quote for updating the Playscapes at Madison Park and the Early Learning Center. I'm submitting this request for the Board of Education approval not to exceed $350,000, and this is from Mr. Howard. So as you can see, we do have in here pictures of what it may look like. I'm asking for your approval of this project to go forward.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the Madison Park and ELC Playscape project quote.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Do we have any questions or any comments about that Playscape project quote? Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mrs. Judy Freeman? Yes. And Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes, the motion carries. Moving on to item 6B, approval of the personnel agenda.
6B is approval of personnel agenda, and so we have Area A, recommendation for the approval of the following administrative resignations for the 21-22 school year.
If I can interrupt, I want to move that we move that to the end of the meeting after executive session, personnel agenda,
The whole thing or just?
The whole thing.
Approve it?
the whole thing.
So we want to just kind of go right to treasurer's comments, then we'll go to executive session and then come back and talk about the personnel agenda. Okay. So we'll just move that around and come back to it. Okay. Are you okay with that, Dr. Cosby? And then we'll come back, we'll take action?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we'll skip that. We'll come back to the personnel agenda. We're moving now to item 7, treasurer's comments. Ms. Allen?
I just wanted to let Mr. Andrews know that I did go to the cruise in, electric cruise in on Saturday. Yeah. So I was looking for something to sign, because I wanted to be one of the 1,500 people that came out there, so I don't know how many that came, but I did talk to one of the owners of the cars, and it was very, very interesting, so I just wanted to let you know.
All right.
That's all I'll say.
Thank you. Item 8, superintendent's comments. Dr. Cosby?
Yes, I did want to say too, because I know the board likes to know how things are going in some of the buildings, and I was in the ELC recently, and I was at Westbrook, and things are moving along very nicely there with the students very engaged in what's happening, so I was excited about that. I also wanted to just make a comment about the CRA tax abatement overview. I agree with Ms. Judy Freeman. It's very well laid out, easy to understand, you know, what the pieces of information are, so I thought that was extremely good. I did want to say that I think in the long run, of course, if Trotwood benefits, the schools benefit. The schools are the highest employer in our community, so it is to our advantage to have housing for people who will potentially, you know, support us and work towards us. It's just we do need every bit of the tax dollars that we get as a district, and I do think that we will work very well with the city to make sure that it's always doing as well as it can. So just wanted to make that comment. That's all I got.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Board comments. Item 9, Mr. Andrews. You said you don't have any comments?
Well, of course I do. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Smith for helping me with the game thing. I would like to apologize to the football team. They played last week. They played a really good game from what I read. They lost by a single point. I wasn't there. I think my essence would put them over.
That's right.
So, I will be there tomorrow.
Well, I think you should, yeah, I think that's probably the right thing to do. Thank you. Ms. Jeter Freeman, any comments?
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Scarce?
The only two comments, well, really one is just a little discussion about the retreat and when might be some dates in October that could work.
Yep.
I spoke with Ms. Allen. Oh, did you, I spoke with Ms. Allen earlier today just to check the dates for October.
The only date that the Great Wolf Lodge had available was the weekend of October 15th.
Okay.
That was the only date.
Friday into Saturday.
Friday into Saturday.
So it was the goal of the district, the goal of the board to have an out-of-district board retreat, to talk about what it is we need to talk about. And October 15th is, looks like what's available.
I'm clear for that weekend.
Is there another location?
She says there another location.
Alternative? Do we have a second?
We didn't have an alternative for this meeting, but yes.
We could think about,
Mhm.
okay.
Actually, I can probably do, let's see. The only one that's not good for me is probably the 23rd and definitely the 23rd. There's another day, maybe the 16th. But that's just like for a couple of hours.
Yeah, any of those dates are good for me.
I
So-
can make it work just for a couple of hours during those days.
And we'll talk about alternative locations.
Yeah. The 16th is good.
Okay.
I have to kind of rework my schedule. Tentatively, I'm scheduled to be working on this. So I can work, travel with that.
Okay.
Okay.
So Ms. Allen, I'll follow up with you maybe tomorrow. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you. And then the other is really just of a public comment. I am so like utterly disturbed at, and I, hate to speak of it openly, but the fights that are happening in our district. They are really bad. They are really bad. And it's not that even they're just bad, it's that our students have the audacity to record them and publicize them. And I think there needs to be some sort of stern statement from the district so families feel like their children are safe at school. I don't know what that statement looks like, but it just won't be tolerated. And if, as a board, some of that board work is if the reprimand or consequence to some of these fights, and I'm not even talking about just the participants, even the instigators. Like, this is not going to be tolerated. And so if there's discussions that need to happen at home between families and their children, please have those discussions with your kids. That this is not the place for that. And if I have to lobby every other board in our region, if students get expelled because this is what they come to school for, then they cannot get expelled from here and go anyplace else. It is not a rite of passage. It is not, just something kids do. This is assault. And I don't know if anybody else has seen the videos that circulate, but we are going to be sued by a family who will not tolerate this. And I think the district has to take a very firm stance that states we will not tolerate this. And I don't just say that as a board member, I say it as a parent, because if one of my babies end up in that video, they're going to be hell to pay. And so I want us to get a hold of, and possibly make some very, very tough decisions to create safe spaces for our children to learn. And that means from the time they get on the bus to the time they get home. it's not okay. And to treat it as a passing, oh, I'm not saying that, we're treating it this way, but to treat it as, oh, well, kids will be kids. No, they won't. No, they won't. We ought to be training children in the way that they should go, and this is not the way that they should go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scarce. Yeah, we were all really surprised at a lot of those Instagram videos. It's hard to believe that those are making the rounds as they are. And we did talk about that last time, and we do need to take this a lot more seriously.
We have board policies. Another thing I think we briefly discussed is what are the preventative measures that we put in place so that students come with an attitude to learn. We have support services, we have social workers, student encouragers, parent encouragers. So we have to be charged with how do we effectively put those processes in place that deter that supports those students. And again, I'll go back to, knowing the students, knowing the history, knowing what's happening outside of the home so that we can engage. So what is it we need to do? Because I've never been one to, if we put them out, we have to know how they're being rehabilitated or whatever. Because if we don't, they might be knocking on my door while I'm not home. And I don't want our numbers down at, the juvenile court to go up. In fact, I want those to come back. So this is one of the discussion items for us at the retreat. Thank you.
Mr., I'm sorry, go ahead.
Board Member Spears, I have some ideas I'll present also in our executive session.
Yes, sir.
Try to address that very
Can I just ask one question?
Mhm. Okay.
Mr. Nadir, when you were at Westbrook Village, you were a part of the restorative justice kind of initial conversation at Westbrook Village when Miss Mallory was principal, correct? Did you see, and maybe Miss Mallory, you could speak to it as well, was there a lot of confrontation like we see now when those things were in place?
Not as much as we're having now.
Okay.
And I don't want to speak to, a lot of it has to do with not just schools, it's societal as well.
Sure.
We're not just dealing with kids, we're also dealing with some adults encouraging some of those types of behaviors when it comes to that notion of self-defense, that notion that someone's hitting you, you hit them back. So there's a lot of other issues that we're working through with the parents as well as the students.
Do you
When we're doing restorative practices, those things help to restore the relationships, but we have to be more proactive in terms of what's starting those fights.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to speak to this because we have not just sat by and done nothing. We have addressed the students who have been involved in the fights that you are speaking to. And unfortunately, some of those have actually led to expulsions. And I say unfortunately because we know if our students are not in school, they're not being educated. And that is, of course, the purpose of why we're here. But we understand the severity of what has happened. To that point, we are doing those things that you all have mentioned. We have a lot of services in place for our students, and we are going to continue to make sure that those are implemented. Mrs. Mallory will be presenting to you the services that we have and how they're being deployed, and as we continue. And she's going around and doing that now in our buildings, and she is going to do that. But we're doing restorative practices, and we've talked about the difference in restorative practice and restorative justice person. We need all of our teachers to know how to have those restorative conversations, how to interact appropriately with the students. We're also doing a program, Conscious Discipline, and we're going to take that from the early learning center on through as we move forward with our ESSER dollars, we're able to do a lot more things. So I am not in any way saying that this is, you know, in any way acceptable. It is absolutely not acceptable. Our students should not be taking these types of incidents, and all of those things are being addressed with the students, with families, and we will do it more. I have a town hall that's coming up that I have to set my date for, but it's coming up soon. I just did it with my staff to have discussions about these things. So we are taking it very seriously as well. I just want to make sure everyone is clear on that. We're doing whatever's necessary to make sure that it stops.
I want to be certain that those conversations aren't just with the students who are involved in what we've seen, but that the statement or standard is set with all students, and so they know not to even put themselves in those types of predicaments.
That's exactly what I was just saying, that this is something that has to be district-wide, all of our teachers, all of our students. So that is the way we're approaching it.
So is there something that goes home with parents, so they know that this is the stance that the district is taking, so everyone receives the same message at the same time?
We will make that happen.
Okay, because I don't want it to be progressive, we'll start at the ELC and we'll try. No, everybody needs to know, like yesterday, like this will not be tolerated. So that is something, I mean, use parent square, Lord knows we get enough of them every day, you know, to let families know that it just won't be tolerated. And then from there, you know, feel free to put into place whatever you think is necessary to help mitigate these things. But everybody needs to know, and we need to know, like, now.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what Mr. Nadir said, is taking more of a proactive stance and kind of thinking ahead, or, you know, like a mental dialogue as to what people might be thinking, and thinking 2 steps ahead of that to make sure that we're ahead of the game on it, rather than trying to, you know, play clean up and catch up. And with that being said, I need a motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment, dismissal, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual per BOE Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22G1, and official action will be taken, because as you know, we did not address the personnel agenda, and we will be back to address that.
So moved.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Do we have any questions or concerns about that? Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Spears?
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman? Yes. Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes, we move into executive session. It's now 6:27. So we have to handle this matter of the personnel agenda. Let's see. So, we need to make an amendment to this personnel agenda. So I'm going to amend it. I'm going to remove, for now, B8 and C7. Is that what we decided, board? Yes, C7.
Yeah.
Those two items are going to be removed from the personnel agenda for now. We'll revisit those at the next meeting. So I need a motion to approve the personnel agenda with those two amendments. I'm going to remove item, let me say it again, item B8 and C7.
So,
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion about the personnel agenda with those two amendments? Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Andrews,
yes.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Mrs. Gina Freeman,
Yes, abstain on B3 for event staff.
Ms. Gina Freeman,
Yes.
and Mrs. Hogan.
Yes, so the motion carries. The personnel agenda has been approved with those two amendments. Now I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yep, 7:56, meeting adjourned. Boop.
Have a